The world is saying goodbye to President Jimmy Carter,
Hmm.
a man who led our nation and then devoted his life to service even after leaving office.
Yes.
And while his impact on the world is immeasurable,
Yeah.
we're diving into a fascinating aspect of his passing. The meticulously planned farewell, known as a state funeral.
Right.
I mean, think about it. The stock exchange closing.
Oh, yeah?
Flags at half-staff for 30 days.
Wow.
There's so much more to this than meets the eye.
It really is a captivating blend of history and tradition
Mm,
and symbolism,
right.
all coming together to honor someone who has held the highest office in the land.
And our sources delve into everything from the week-long timeline to the guest list.
Mm.
But before we get into all that,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
we should start with the basics.
Sure.
Can you break down what a state funeral actually is,
Absolutely.
for those of us who might not be familiar with the intricacies?
At its core, a state funeral is an incredibly intricate event
Okay.
that often unfolds over an entire week. It's not just a single ceremony, but a series of events,
Right.
carefully orchestrated with military precision.
Okay.
It usually begins in the former president's home state,
Mm-hmm.
transitions to Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
and then concludes at the burial site.
Okay, so multiple locations, multiple days.
Yeah.
That's definitely more elaborate than I initially imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And I know these funerals have a deep historical significance,
Right.
but I'm curious, how far back does this tradition actually go?
Centuries, actually.
Oh,
It's a practice rooted in demonstrating a nation's profound respect for its leaders.
wow.
It's a way of acknowledging their impact on the country and marking the end of an era.
Wow, talk about a legacy.
Yeah.
So with President Carter, how will this all unfold? What's
Yeah.
the specific timeline for his farewell?
Based on the information we have,
Mm-hmm.
it all begins in Atlanta on January 4th,
Okay,
with a service at the Carter Presidential Center,
okay.
followed by a period where he'll lie in repose until January 7th.
And I understand that before reaching Atlanta, the
Oh.
procession will actually pause at his boyhood home in Plains
Mm-hmm.
and the Georgia State Capitol.
Right.
I find those personal touches really intriguing,
Yeah.
especially within such a formal event.
Right.
It's like a glimpse into the man behind the title.
You're right.
Yeah.
Those personal elements are often woven into the grander fabric of a state funeral.
Mm,
It adds a layer of humanity,
Right.
reminding us that this is not just about a president,
right.
but a person
Yeah.
who lived a full life
Yeah.
with roots and connections that extend beyond the political sphere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after Atlanta, what happens next?
On January 7th,
Okay.
the journey continues to Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
with a procession leading from the U.S. Navy Memorial to the Capitol building,
Mm-hmm.
where President Carter will lie in state for 2 days.
Okay.
There's also a service plan for members of Congress on that day.
And then the state funeral itself takes place on January 9th at the Washington National Cathedral.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
And this day has been designated a National Day of Mourning by President Biden.
And he'll be delivering the eulogy,
Yes.
which is especially poignant considering he mentioned being asked to do so last year.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain weight
Yeah.
to a sitting president eulogizing his predecessor,
Yeah.
a testament to the continuity of leadership and the shared responsibility of guiding a nation.
Is there anything else you can tell us about the service itself?
Let me see.
Any unique details that stand out?
Well, Jason Carter, President Carter's grandson, will be speaking.
Okay.
And there's a particularly touching tribute planned,
Okay.
where the late President Ford's and Vice President Mondale's eulogies,
Oh, wow.
which they had written for their occasions,
Okay.
will be read aloud by their sons.
It's amazing how these threads of history intertwine. It makes
Yeah.
you realize that even in death, there's this connection to the past,
Right.
this sense of continuity.
Mm.
So while all of this sounds incredibly grand and formal,
Right.
I'm curious, is any of it open to the public?
Absolutely.
Can everyday citizens participate in paying their respects?
The public will have opportunities to pay their respects throughout the week.
Okay.
Public viewings are scheduled at both the Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta
Mm-hmm.
and the U.S. Capitol.
Okay.
Additionally, people can line the procession route in D.C.
Oh, okay.
and potentially see the motorcade.
So it's not just an event for dignitaries and world leaders.
Right.
It's a chance for anyone, regardless of their background, to be a part of this national moment of remembrance.
And that accessibility speaks to the core purpose of these events.
Right.
They offer a space for collective grieving and reflection, a chance for the nation to connect with the legacy of someone who held the highest office.
Now, the guest list.
Yeah.
It's the question on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Will we see former presidents,
Right.
especially former President Trump, in attendance?
It's not confirmed yet,
Okay.
but it's customary for former presidents to attend these events. It's worth noting that former President Trump has posted remembrances of President Carter on social media.
It's interesting to consider past presidential funerals in comparison.
Right.
All the living former presidents attended George H.W. Bush's funeral back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
However, for Rosalind Carter's funeral earlier this year,
Right.
neither former President Trump, Bush, nor Obama attended, though their wives were present.
Right. And those comparisons lead to speculation about the potential political implications.
Of course, and while we won't delve into political analysis,
Yeah.
it's certainly something people will be watching closely.
Yeah.
So, beyond the funeral itself,
Hmm.
there are some national gestures planned.
Yeah.
What's the protocol for flags at half-staff, for instance?
President Biden has ordered flags at all federal and military buildings to fly at half-staff for 30 days,
Okay.
which is significant
Mm-hmm.
because that extends through President-elect Trump's inauguration on January 20th.
That's a really powerful visual, isn't it?
It is.
A constant reminder of the period of mourning.
Yes. Bridging the transition between administrations.
And it's not without precedent.
Okay.
Flags were similarly lowered for 30 days after the passing of George H.W. Bush.
Right.
It's a way of signifying the profound impact of the loss on the nation.
We also touched on the stock exchange closing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a standard practice in these situations?
Yes. The New York Stock Exchange will be closed on January 9th,
Okay.
the designated National Day of Mourning.
Okay.
They've followed this tradition for past presidents,
Right.
including George H.W. Bush in 2018.
So we're talking about a significant pause across various facets of American life.
Yeah.
What else will be closed on that day?
All federal agencies and executive departments will be closed as well,
Yeah.
though some might remain operational for national security or essential needs.
It's remarkable how these events have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
touching upon so many aspects of daily life.
Yeah, it's true.
But stepping back from the logistics and formalities for a moment,
Okay.
what's the deeper significance of all this?
Yeah. What does a state funeral mean on a more profound level?
It's about a nation taking a collective breath,
Mm-hmm.
a moment to reflect on a life of service
Okay.
and to reaffirm its values.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chance to transcend political differences
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledge a shared history.
It really does create a sense of unity,
It does.
a shared experience that can be especially powerful in a world that often feels so divided.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Regardless of your political leanings,
Mm-hmm.
there's something profound about witnessing a nation come together to honor its past
Mm-hmm.
and contemplate its future.
And in this case, we're honoring a man who led an incredibly impactful life,
Yes.
both during and after his presidency.
Yes, and recognizing that legacy is central to the meaning of a state funeral.
That brings up a fascinating point.
Okay.
These events are meticulously planned, yet there's always an element of the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to how history will ultimately remember someone.
Precisely.
While we can plan the logistics,
Yeah.
the speeches, symbolism,
Yeah.
the way a leader is ultimately remembered is influenced by countless factors beyond our control.
Right.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
All this planning, all this ceremony,
Right.
but ultimately,
Yeah.
how will President Carter be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
What aspects of his life and work will resonate most?
Yeah.
What will stand the test of time?
Those are indeed the questions that history will answer.
And speaking of legacy, this is where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore President Carter's lasting impact on the world
Yeah.
and how his example continues to inspire people today.
Right. It's fascinating to consider, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which parts of a life truly make a legacy?
Yeah,
It's more than just policies or speeches.
right.
With someone like President Carter,
Mhm.
who dedicated so much of his life to service even after his time in office,
Yeah.
it becomes even more complex.
You're right. It makes you think about what truly transcends a person's time in the political spotlight.
Mm.
And while we've been focusing on the symbolic and ceremonial aspects of the state funeral,
Yeah.
I'm curious about the behind-the-scenes reality.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a tremendous amount of coordination involved.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, multiple locations, dignitaries from all over the world,
yeah.
security concerns.
Right.
It's mind-boggling.
The level of planning that goes into an event like this is extraordinary.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Managing the flow of people,
Mm-hmm.
coordinating the precise timing of events,
Right.
ensuring the highest levels of security,
Right.
all while maintaining the dignity and solemnity of the occasion.
It's almost like a perfectly choreographed dance,
It is.
with so many moving parts working in harmony.
It really is.
I bet there are countless teams working around the clock to make sure everything runs without a hitch.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's easy to overlook the sheer human effort that goes into these events.
Mm-hmm.
We see the seamless execution, the precision, and the grace.
Right.
But behind it all is a dedicated team of individuals
Yeah.
working tirelessly to make it happen.
It's like that saying, the duck appears calm on the surface,
Right.
but its legs are paddling furiously underneath.
Exactly.
That perfectly captures the behind-the-scenes reality of a state funeral.
That's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not just the logistical aspect.
Right.
There's a significant emotional component as well.
Oh, yeah, of course.
These are people who are grieving,
Yeah.
grappling with the weight of history and tradition,
Mm-hmm.
all under the watchful eye of the public.
You know, I hadn't considered that aspect before.
Yeah.
It must be incredibly intense, both emotionally and logistically,
Yeah.
for everyone involved.
I think it's essential to acknowledge that human element.
Right.
While these events are filled with ceremony and protocol,
Mm-hmm.
they are at their core about profound human emotions.
Yeah.
Grief, loss, respect, remembrance.
Hmm.
And those emotions are felt by everyone, from the family to the military personnel to the people lining the streets to pay their respects.
It's a powerful reminder that even amidst something as grand and formal as a state funeral, we're all connected by those shared human experiences.
Yeah, we are.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
I'd love to talk about the historical evolution of state funerals.
Yeah.
We know they have deep roots, but have they always been like this?
That's a great question.
Have they changed over time?
Yes, they've definitely evolved,
Yeah.
reflecting changes in society, technology,
Hmm.
and even the political landscape.
Right.
For example, early state funerals were much simpler affairs,
Okay.
with a less pronounced emphasis on grandeur and ceremony.
So what sparked the shift towards these more elaborate ceremonies we see today?
While it's difficult to pinpoint a precise moment,
Yeah.
the rise of mass media played a pivotal role.
Oh, okay.
As newspapers, radio, and later television became more pervasive,
Right.
state funerals transformed from private ceremonies for the elite into public spectacles,
Mm-hmm.
shared experiences that could unite a nation.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about creating a shared narrative, a collective memory that everyone can participate in.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that shared narrative can be incredibly powerful.
Right.
It shapes how we understand history,
Mm-hmm.
how we perceive our leaders,
Right.
and even how we define ourselves as a nation.
It's almost like a form of national storytelling,
It is.
with its own unique set of characters, plot, and themes.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And just like any good story,
Mm-hmm.
the themes woven into a state funeral
Right.
often reflect the values and beliefs of the time.
You mentioned earlier that the military plays a significant role in orchestrating state funerals.
Right.
Has that always been the case? Or is that a more recent development?
It's definitely become more prominent over time,
Okay.
particularly in the 20th and 21st centuries.
Okay.
This likely reflects the growing influence of the military in American society, as well as a desire to project an image of strength and unity on the world stage.
It's fascinating how even something as seemingly ceremonial as a state funeral
Right.
can reflect these broader social and political shifts.
It really is.
Yeah.
These events are steeped in symbolism,
Mm-hmm.
and those symbols often carry meaning that extends beyond the immediate context. They
Right.
speak to deeper societal values,
Yeah.
underlying assumptions about power and authority,
Mm-hmm.
and the ways in which we as a nation
Right.
choose to define ourselves.
So by understanding the symbolism and rituals, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in history.
Precisely.
Right.
And it's something worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
These events offer a glimpse into the heart of our national identity.
Now, I know we've been delving into the historical and symbolic aspects of these events,
Right.
but I'd like to bring it back to the present moment. For
Definitely.
many people,
Yeah.
this will be their first experience witnessing a state funeral. What advice would you give to someone who wants to engage with this event in a meaningful way?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think the most crucial piece of advice is to simply be present.
Okay.
Allow yourself to feel the emotions that arise,
Yeah.
whether it's sadness, grief, respect,
Mm-hmm.
or even a sense of awe.
Okay.
Don't overthink it.
Right.
or try to intellectualize it too much. Just let yourself experience the moment.
I think that's valuable advice.
Mhm.
It's easy to get caught up in the logistics or the
Yeah.
historical context,
Right.
but sometimes it's important to simply let ourselves feel.
Exactly.
Right.
And remember, this is a shared experience.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of people around the world are also watching, grieving, and reflecting.
Yeah.
And that sense of connection can be incredibly powerful.
It's a reminder that even in the face of loss, we are not alone.
Right.
Mm.
It's also important to be respectful of the fact
Yeah.
that this is a time of mourning for President Carter's family
Of course.
while the event is public. There are real people experiencing a profound loss.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that respect should extend to everyone involved.
absolutely.
From the family to the military personnel to the volunteers working behind the scenes,
Right.
each person plays a vital role in this national moment of remembrance.
I agree.
Yeah.
And finally,
Okay.
I would encourage people to use this opportunity for reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what President Carter's life and legacy mean to you personally.
Yeah.
What lessons can we learn from his example?
Right.
What challenges did he face and how did he overcome them?
Mm.
What values did he embody?
Right.
And how can we strive to live up to those values in our own lives?
It's a chance to move beyond the headlines and sound bites.
Yeah.
And truly engage with the impact this man had,
Absolutely.
both on our nation and the world.
Exactly. And that reflection can continue long after the funeral itself is over.
It's about carrying his legacy forward, finding ways to honor it in our own actions and choices.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
And, it's not just about President Carter.
Right.
It's about all the leaders who have come before us, who have shaped our history,
Right.
who have left their mark on the world.
Mm.
It's about recognizing their impact
Right.
and finding ways to build upon their legacy.
It's about connecting the past to the present and the present to the future.
And that's the true power of a state funeral.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, turning our attention to President Carter's legacy, we've been talking about the power of legacy,
Right.
about finding ways to honor those who came before us.
Yeah.
And with President Carter, that legacy is particularly rich and multifaceted.
It is?
So let's delve into some concrete examples of his lasting impact on the world.
Okay.
Where do we even begin?
Well, one of the most striking aspects of his post-presidency
Yeah.
is his unwavering dedication to humanitarian work through the Carter Center.
It's truly remarkable.
It is.
Who didn't simply retreat from public life? He and Rosalind actively engaged in tackling some of the world's most pressing challenges,
Yeah.
from promoting fair elections
Mhm.
to eradicating diseases.
It speaks volumes about his character, doesn't it?
It really does.
He could have easily chosen a quieter path,
Right.
but instead he chose to roll up his sleeves and continue serving others.
Absolutely. And their work was always grounded in diplomacy,
Mm-hmm.
peace building,
Mhm.
and empowering local communities.
Right.
It's a powerful model of active citizenship that transcends political divides.
Yes.
Their work on guinea worm disease is a phenomenal example.
Yeah,
When they started, millions of people were affected.
I know.
Now it's on the verge of eradication.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's a tangible, life-changing impact.
It really is.
And what's remarkable is that it wasn't just about funding a solution.
Right.
They went into communities, listened to people's needs,
Yeah,
and worked collaboratively to find sustainable solutions.
that's right.
And then there's his commitment to Habitat for Humanity,
Oh, yeah.
a former president.
I know. Alongside his wife,
Mm,
building homes for those in need.
right.
It's such a powerful image of humility and service.
It is.
A testament to their belief that everyone deserves a decent place to live.
It absolutely is.
And that belief in affordable housing wasn't just something he embraced after leaving office.
Right.
It was a driving force behind his housing policies, even during his presidency.
Yeah, that's right.
Beyond those specific initiatives,
Yeah.
I think it's essential to acknowledge the unwavering moral compass he brought to public life.
Mm-hmm.
He never shied away from speaking out for what he believed in,
No, he didn't.
even when it was unpopular.
You're right. His commitment to human rights, both within the United States and internationally,
Right.
was unwavering,
Yeah.
even when it clashed with political expediency.
And I think that resonates with people,
Yeah,
regardless of their political views.
it does.
It's about standing up for what you believe is right,
Mm-hmm.
even when it's difficult.
It's about integrity.
Yeah.
About leading by example. Right.
A quality that feels increasingly rare in our world today.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, while we've been focusing on the undeniably significant positive aspects of his legacy,
Right.
it's important to acknowledge that no presidency is without its complexities and controversies.
Of course, there were economic challenges.
Right.
The Iran hostage crisis
Right.
and debates surrounding his approach to foreign policy.
Right.
History will continue to analyze and interpret the nuances of his time in office.
But even in the face of those challenges,
Mm-hmm.
his commitment to dialogue, to finding peaceful resolutions, and
Yeah.
to learning from his experiences remained steadfast.
And I think that's a valuable lesson for all of us.
Right.
True leadership isn't about being flawless.
Yeah.
It's about having the courage to adapt, to learn from mistakes,
Right.
and to keep striving for a better world even when faced with adversity.
So as we wrap up this deep dive
Yeah.
into President Carter's state funeral and his enduring legacy, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Okay.
What can we glean from this moment?
I think it's a powerful invitation to reflect on what truly matters.
Mm-hmm.
How do we want to be remembered?
Right.
What impact do we want to leave on the world?
Mm-hmm.
How can we embody the values of service, integrity, and compassion in our own lives?
And it's not necessarily about grand gestures
Right.
or monumental achievement.
Oh.
It's about the small acts of kindness,
Mhm.
the everyday choices we make,
Yeah.
the way we treat each other.
Precisely. Legacy isn't just about what we accomplish.
Right.
It's about who we are at our core.
And as we bid farewell to a man who dedicated his life to serving others,
Yes.
perhaps that's the most enduring lesson of all.
It is.
So as you go about your day, dear listener,
Yeah.
we encourage you to consider
Mhm.
what kind of legacy are you building?
Right.
What mark will you leave on the world?
Those are profound questions worth pondering.
They are.
Remember, even the smallest actions can ripple outwards, creating a positive impact that extends far beyond ourselves.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
We hope it's offered you a fresh perspective on state funerals,
Yeah.
on President Carter's remarkable life and legacy,
Right.
and on the enduring power of service and compassion.